So welcome to today's issue of Confessions of a Cleaning Business Owner. Today we're going to be getting a bit of an update on how the price rises are going. So we know that a lot of people are putting in price rises ready for April. A lot of them went out at the beginning of March, and we're getting some feedback now from customers, and there are a lot of questions all over the groups about the customer responses. So what we wanted to do was come online and answer some of these questions, because as much as we can give you a stock answer in the Facebook groups, sometimes, especially if it's face to face, you've got to sort of hear it. You've got to hear other people and how some of the intonation would be. So, Diane, how do you feel about a little bit of role play today?
I'm always up for a bit of role play, Louise.
I thought you might be, because I've got some really good questions here for you that have come up from people in the groups and some of the feedback that customers have given about the price rises. So before we start, you put your price rises out at the beginning of March, didn't you?
Mid-February. So yeah, we went early doors.
What's the response been like? How's it gone? And what have you got up from and to? Because people want to know real numbers.
An average of about £2 an hour increase. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's been interesting because we've lost 4 clients so far who've cancelled completely. And we've had, I think when I looked this morning, we've had 3 clients that have changed their frequency or their hours to sort of accommodate the new pricing. It's been quite interesting actually, because apart from one client who said that, and actually somebody else has had the similar response, which was that the price increase was too high, most have actually gone, we completely understand, you know. And it's simply, and actually the 4 cancellations we've had, I think only one of them has not said, you know, we're just kind of reassessing our finances and actually we're retiring, or our kids have left home now, or whatever it is. There's been a kind of a change that they've kind of gone, do you know what, we can probably do it ourselves now, rather than we're going for the cheaper option. I think one client has gone for a cheaper option, but the other 3 have not, at least not told us that that's what they've done. So
can we be honest though, Diane? They don't always tell us the truth.
No, that's why I said haven't told us. Yeah, that's why I said haven't told us. But yeah, do you know what? It's to be expected. And actually, as a percentage, that's a tiny percentage. We expect to lose some more over the next couple of months as the price increase actually kicks in. There might be clients of ours that are actively contacting other cleaning businesses at the moment. I don't know, but it's kind of normal. And if we lost 10%, I would be happy.
Will you be happy, or you'd be happy not to lose more?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I would be like, if it's only 10%, I'll be happy, because it's to be expected. You know, it's like not everybody can afford our service. Not everybody perhaps sees the value, and there are always going to be cheaper cleaners out there. In reality, if we lose 10%, I would probably expect a percentage of those to come back in the future anyway. So I'm not worried yet. It's not nice, but you know what? We're still fully booked. So sometimes it's okay to lose some customers. I hate to say it.
Do you know what I've done? And I feel awful because I've broken all the rules doing this. So we put ours up. I think on average, ours are going up about £2.50 plus VAT. But we do a commercial clean and we do a 12 hours a week. And I haven't put their prices up for 4 years because I don't know, I feel attached to this. I've been heavily involved in it. I didn't want to. And it's got to crunch point. I have to put the prices up. And so I was like, right, do I put it up £3 an hour, which is the minimum I could put it up? Or do we just get it in line where I wouldn't even put it, if I put it up £5 an hour, it's still £2.50 less than our cheapest contract. So I was like, I've got to put it up £5 an hour. So I sent it out yesterday. Bearing in mind, all our price rises went out 2 weeks ago. I sent it out yesterday, and I just feel awful about this one because I've got 2 staff that both do 6 hours a week on this. And I'm like, look, if we lose this because of my choices, I feel really, really guilty. But then I was like, I can't continue to do this because they are costing me almost this much. But I have a lot of sympathy for people that go, I don't want to put the prices up, because I was sat there going, all right, there's not enough profit in this to contribute towards the office, the software, the staff, the payroll, but that's all paid for by everything else. Maybe I should just not put this up. So, you know, all the objections we get from people, I sat there and I told myself all of these excuses and then did it anyway.
Yeah. And actually it's really interesting because we've got it's not actually, we don't go for as long, but it's a commercial client that we haven't put the price up for 3 years because it's kind of like it's easy, it's relatively okay. But when you look at the numbers and you realize that they are not contributing to the costs of the business anymore, and that the staff have had 3 pay rises in the time
Yeah.
that we kept it at that price, you have to just rip the plaster off sometimes, don't you? And part of me's kind of thought, you know what, the team member that goes, this is her only job with us, and it would be awful if, you know, if they did cancel, but we simply could not carry on. It has to be a numbers-based business decision in the end. But yeah, so we go through the same emotions here, don't we? And we
Yeah.
handle our own flipping objections to the price increase, but ultimately anybody that's in your schedule, it has to work for your team, it has to work for the client, and the third cog, which is often missing, is it has to work for the business. So yeah, sometimes you just have to do it.
But you know, Diane, the reason I'm in this situation, I didn't put the prices up for 4 years. And
Yeah.
so it's so painful now. And I'm going to probably lose, but I might not. But if I lose the customer because of this massive price hike, I think, you idiot, if you'd gone up £1 a
Yeah.
year, I wouldn't be risking it at all. They probably just absorb it. And I just think, you know, I did this to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And often, you know, these are self-inflicted wounds, aren't they? Often when it comes to pricing, it also happens when it comes to team issues, doesn't it? That we ignore a problem for too long and then it becomes a bigger problem. So yeah, it's just a symptom of that. And that client, interesting enough, is the one that said that our price increase is ridiculous. And it probably is, to be fair, but it's because we hadn't done it. So it's our own fault that it is now ridiculous, but it's unavoidable. You
Yeah.
had a really interesting response to us. One of our members said that they'd had an email back from a client saying that the 14% increase they were proposing is crazy, and although they'd already stated why in the email about the price increase, they were looking for a professional way to respond. And there were a couple of really good responses from our members. I think somebody used ChatGPT to get
Of
a
course.
response, and it's fine. But actually, I really liked yours. Can you
So
remember
I
what it
went to
was?
this. Do you remember this one? So basically, they'd answered, they justified it, national minimum wage, the employer's contribution, they justified it all. There was nothing I could add to that. So I was like, right, let's hit them with a bit of emotion. So at this point, I'd be saying, I am so incredibly sorry. I really don't want to raise your prices. I've really enjoyed working with you. I really don't want to do this, having to put your prices up. I'm actually terrified we might actually lose you as a customer for this. And I'm so incredibly sorry. Happy to talk about this if we can do anything to kind of make it easier. And I just want you to know how apologetic I am for having to do this.
Sometimes that's all we can go with, isn't it? Is, you know, you
Yeah.
can almost agree with the client. It's like even when it's a new client and they say, oh gosh, that's expensive, you're kind of like, yeah, I know. It costs a lot to be in business now. It costs a lot to employ people now. Everything's more expensive. You know, if I think of my years in business, you know, and how much house prices have gone up and how much a cost have gone up, everything's gone up ridiculously. Everything seems expensive now, I think. But I do like, you know, responding with emotion. You've already justified the price. They've come back with asking for justification, but also with some emotion. It's kind of okay to go, look, I know it seems like a lot. And honestly, you know, I wish it wasn't that much, but we have to put our prices up to this amount to stay in business.
We did this right from our very first price rise letter, which I think is possibly why we haven't had so many cancellations. It was an angry political letter. It was angry about what is happening to businesses. And somebody put this in the group recently where they said, I feel like giving up. I'm so upset at how we're being treated, how unjust this is, how awful it is. You know, how do other people feel? And they came on to agree. And I was like, I don't feel upset. I feel angry. I feel it is unjust. And so I very much put this across in our price rise letter that I think that what is being done, in particular to our industry, it's unfair and I am angry about it. And so when you get this big emotion of anger in the letter, and obviously we toned it down quite a lot, you know, you can come back to us and say, I think that's really unreasonable. And all I'm going to say is, I am angry that I've had to do this to you. It's very hard to come back to that. So if you've already put emotion in it in the first place, which is why we did write such a different price rise email, because it is then hard to come back with anything other than, I'm cancelling, I'm changing it. We completely agree that it's awful that we're doing this to you.
Yeah.
And we've said that from the outset. And I think a lot of us are so obsessed with being professional God, I feel like I'm telling you not to be professional. I think we try and do it really professionally, but actually we take a lot of what makes our businesses us out of it. So you're taking a lot of personality out of it, but that's what makes your business unique. That's what makes you good in your community. And if you take every part of your emotion and you out of it, then what's left? So add it back in.
And I think that's where, we're big advocates of using AI, and ChatGPT is a really useful tool. But I quite often would put in something, ask it to write something for me, and I go, no, that doesn't sound like our voice.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that it sounds like AI. That's irrelevant. It's almost, it isn't how we do business. That's not how we would say something. And then maybe I'll prompt it to say, can you make it a bit fluffier? Can you make it a little bit more warm? And it comes back, and again, it's still not quite right. And I think that being authentic and genuine, that's what people bought in the first place. So, you know what, if you're a bit ranty at a sales appointment, and we all know that Louise is probably a bit ranty at a sales appointment.
I'm lovely. Can I tell you what I got yesterday? I did a quote and they were like, gosh, if your business is all as lovely as you are, we are definitely with the right one. I was like, score. They won't be, but don't worry.
But so I'm teasing, but you know what? It's okay to be genuine and to sort of be honest in all parts of our business, and without sort of like, you don't want to guilt trip your clients into staying with you, but it's okay to go, yeah, I get it. And we may not be affordable for you now, but as a business, we have to do what's right for our team and ourselves as well as for you. And it's okay to say that. And certainly our price increase letter had an element of that. It wasn't particularly emotional, but it did say, this is a choice that we have to make in order to continue as a successful business and to be able to look after our team and to reward them for their hard work. It's like, that's what we're all about.
We didn't do that. We just went full on. We've been forced to do this by the government. Every element of this is enforced, which it pretty much is. There was no choice out of this for me. It was like, I'm forced to do this, and that's that. Here you go.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't vote for whoever you voted for.
That's like, kind of it's very like openly like, I'm angry, but also not particularly warm and fuzzy emotions. So if you needed to have a comeback for that, could you go back with a bit of a, I completely get it. I'm totally sympathetic to it. We genuinely don't want to do this. So you can still go with the emotion on the follow-up if need be, can't you?
Yeah, so if somebody wants to talk to me about it, I haven't got that level of anger in me the whole time. That was specifically for when we sent that email out. That was half an hour of anger, and then I moved on. So if they want to speak to me, then they're going to get a calm, logical, I'm really sorry. You're not going to get the level of anger. I can't recreate it that fast.
Yeah. If a client does cancel, would you go back to them and go, I'm really sorry. Is there anything that we can do? Could we change anything about the service to make it easier for you to stay with us?
Do you know, so I'm giving the webinar on retaining customers, and the answer to this should be yes, absolutely. Yes, you should do this. In all honesty, on a personal level, would I do it? Potentially. Well, I know I wouldn't do it. So it's not that I feel awkward about following up with that customer. That customer has made that choice, not lightly. They've often had us for years and years. They know what we deliver. They know what we do. Sometimes if you do that, they'll come back to you and say, oh, well, I'd like X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I know I can't consistently deliver on that. So there's a part of me that goes, go out to other people, go experience what it's like, and then come back to us. So my follow-up email, if they left, would be like, I would follow up, say the benefits of us, and then say the door is always open. We completely understand. Please come back to us. And if I was going to follow up, I would follow up in 2 months' time, because the odds are they won't be able to find another cleaner. And if they do, in about 2 months, they'll be starting to have little niggles about it. So I wouldn't necessarily follow up immediately. But that being said, a stock template email goes out saying all of these things. So
always leaving the door open. I think that's really important, isn't it?
I wouldn't give them the awkwardness of a phone call, because I think if they've cancelled, they feel more awkward than I do. And so I wouldn't be trying to phone them. So I don't know. Is that the right answer? What would you do, Di?
Yeah, we do exactly. We do a confirmation email, if you like, so completely understand. If you did want to change your frequency, that could be an option. But of course, if you choose not to use us moving forward, that's absolutely fine. We're always here for you, whoever need us. So yeah, we would kind of cover it off in the confirmation.
So my biggest issue really a lot of the time when customers are not happy with the price rise is it's very easy to whack off a quick email saying, I'm unhappy, you've risen by 14%, you've done this. And they would never say that to you face to face like
No.
that. And so when they're talking to you in person, we can resolve almost anything, not everything, but most things. But I find it quite hard with emails to go, I'm not dealing with genuine emotions from them. Sometimes they're just not trying it on. They're just letting out their frustration at me that they wouldn't necessarily do to my face. And so I do find communication by email, particularly when you bring emotion into it, quite challenging. Like, it's one thing to confirm a slot or go, you can have this date instead of that date. Actual negotiations are almost impossible.
Yeah, I think it's the same if you're even signing a client and then they're messaging you and you're trying to sell via a message. It's really hard, and it's the same thing because you can't connect with people in an email, and actually it's really easy to misinterpret what somebody's written. We see that on social media all the time, don't we? The written word doesn't always come across how we meant it. So yeah, it's always to be used with care, especially if you're trying to add in some emotion.
Yeah. Okay, Diane, we're going to do a bit of role play now. You charge what for cleaning? You don't get to laugh and think about it. You're going straight in with this one.
I might laugh if somebody said that to me.
I think I probably would. I'd be like, oh, okay, right, here we go then.
I'd probably say, what price were you expecting? I'd probably like throw it back at them.
It's impossible to come back quickly, isn't it, with any structured response? If they throw that, you charge what? You have to almost go, come on, buy me some time here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and it is a time buying question. But it's also let's see where the conversation goes, because that's such a killer like thing to say that it's hard to recover from. So yeah, I would be like, well, what were you expecting? And then we can see where we were at. So if they then say to me, well, my last cleaner was £12 an hour, and I say, well, we pay our staff more than that. So obviously as a business, we couldn't charge anywhere near that because we would simply not be in business, and then go from there, I suppose.
So the two things you wouldn't do, you wouldn't storm out and walk away going, this is never going to work. And you wouldn't go into a monologue defending it.
No.
You'd just go, give me more information here. What am I actually tackling?
Yeah, and I genuinely think I might actually laugh if somebody delivered it in that way. Yeah, that's probably my hang up. But you know what? I think it's okay to laugh sometimes. It's like, yeah, no, I get it. It can seem expensive, but this is what's included. Yeah.
Good. I've got another one for you. Right, ready? I'm doing this seriously now. Why are you so much more than other cleaners, Diane?
I would say, well, there's probably an easy answer to that, which is that we are the best in the area, but you'd expect me to say that. But let me talk through what's included. So that's kind of where I would take it.
Then you're going to break it down. And I've done this. I've literally broken it down, by the which point they're so bored of listening to me. There's no more objection. I break it down pound by pound and go, right, you want to know the whole 30 quid? Here you go. Oh, and by the way, I'll even throw in what we make as a profit as well, so you can have the full disclosure. It eradicates that objection, doesn't it?
Yeah. But the thing is, I think this is an objection that we hear so often, and I've been hearing this objection since I was £15 an hour 17 years ago. So it's kind of like water off a duck's back now. I don't get offended. It doesn't bother me. It's like, yeah, it might seem that way. We are the best.
Do you know what I like to answer? Depending on my relationship with the customer, but by this point, they're probably annoying me a little bit. And I often say, because it's not that we're expensive, I would question not what we are delivering, because we'll deliver exactly what we say on the tin. I'm not going to give you any bells and whistles. We will just do it and do it well and do what you'd expect from a cleaning company. I'd question what they're not delivering, because they cannot afford to deliver everything that you've asked for that we will deliver. They can't afford to do it. So the issue isn't what am I delivering? The issue is what are they not delivering? And
it's interesting because I always try and avoid that kind of negative about competitors, but sometimes you just kind of have to go, they're not as good as us. They're not going to deliver what we can deliver for the price. But obviously we understand that a customer has a choice into what they value in a service.
So normally I get this objection if I know they're getting multiple quotes off people, and they will say that they've got cheaper quotes. And I've obviously at this point probably already justified everything we do. And so that's why I'm normally at this point like, what? I've got nothing left here. Go compare them to us. Go and compare what you don't get, because this is normally my exasperation answer. It's not my opening objection response.
I suppose I think that because we take them through a process on the phone and guiding them through what we want to talk about and the rapport we want to build, it's very rare that they don't either tell us there and then what their budget is as part of the pricing discussion. And it's very rare that they come off the phone now going, I'm going to get some other quotes. I don't actually hear that very often anymore, but I think it's because we've talked them through our quote beforehand, if that makes sense. Before we actually drop the price, we've earned it.
So we often it will start from the beginning. I'm getting a few quotes. I just need to know your price.
Yeah.
So it's often not in a full quote. It's where they've got me on the phone. All I want to know is your price. What is your hourly rate? So I've gone through everything and then they do it. So it's not a proper quote because you're right. I don't get it there, but it's an inquiry. And 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, God, I'm done here. I'm done. You're not going to go with us, are you? So you might as well just have it. Get off the phone. Well, I'm great to have on the phone for a quote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but we have a system in place that kind of avoids most of those conversations anyway. But I think those sorts of conversations would often come like, maybe you get a Facebook message. Can you tell me how much you charge per hour, please? Or something like that. And they're harder to convert than somebody that's actually booked a quote or that you're on the phone to, I think, because like we've already said, text is a lot harder to come across. But I would still never answer that question with we're £30 an hour. I just wouldn't, because it would close most conversations.
Well, I don't open with it, but like, yeah. Do you know, I have done that recently. Okay, so I get that we are in a very lucky position that we have a lot of work in. And there's been a couple of jobs where I'm listening to the customer for about 20 seconds and I'm like, I don't want this job. And they're like, and how much is it? And I'm like quoting them the maximum I can quote them to go, oh, I feel a little bit bad. And then they then give me the price objections to which I don't really tackle. Yeah, I need to improve on this, don't I? I'm listening to myself going,
I think we're talking lazy selling here, and versus professional selling. Professionally helping others to buy is how we like to sell, isn't it, Louise? And I get it. Sometimes, it's late at night and somebody sent you a Facebook message and you can't be bothered. But you know what? If you have a template, you can start the conversation even on a message. But I do still think it's easier to sell on the phone or in person than it is in any kind of written communication.
I'll tell you an inquiry I got recently. I need an end of tenancy clean of my 1-bedroom flat. It only needs 3 hours. And I was like, do I send them how much will it cost? Right. I was like, do I send them my standard email, which would involve them then booking in a quote and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to quote them then. I'm just going to quote them on 6 hours. I'm not quoting you on 3 hours. That's not happening. So I'll quote you on 6 hours, what it includes, and then send them the standard response. And they didn't want to go with me.
Yeah. The thing is, though, with one-off cleans like that, if you were to quote at the 3 hours, they're not going to be happy. And we've actually had that recently with a moving out clean, but they were sort of an existing client, but they'd been a bit unreliable in terms of cancellations. And we didn't have space for a full move out clean. So we agreed with them that they would book the space that we had, which was 5 hours. And we said, we won't be able to get everything done. We'll focus on kitchen and bathrooms and we'll do as much as we can in the time, but we will not be able to do everything. And then, of course, they weren't happy. So you've got to be really careful about underbooking when it comes to one-off cleans. Even the best of us get caught out.
I tell you about a problem I'm having at the moment. Should we go off track here completely? Forget we're on a podcast.
Yeah, people like this to problems, certainly.
So it's a property developer and she has a massive apartment block and we clean her property. When tenants move out, she gets the handymen in, they do a bit of painting, whatever they do, and then we go in and we clean it. So they're standard 1 and 2 bed apartments in a set block. But anyway, she came to us and we've done, 15 of these probably. She came to us a few weeks ago and she said, I need 4 hours cleaning on this apartment, and my staff went in there and it was bad. In particular, the bathroom. Now, we don't get limescale, but this had limescale and it was in every crevice. It was really bad. Flat in not as good as condition as she's a brilliant property developer and they're normally in good condition, not great condition. It was bad. Anyway, they took 5 hours, at which point we were like, you have to cap it. You have to get out of there, right? So we then said, fine, they come out of there. It was in a lot better condition and I gave the keys back to the estate agent. We had to pick up the keys. So then she complained to me and she said the extractor fans hadn't been cleaned, and they hadn't, to be fair. And there was a little bit around the bottom of the shower. Now, my staff had already spent an hour on this shower, so I was like, right, fine, I don't want to lose this customer. Let's clean the extractor fans and clean around the bottom of the shower. So I went back and did it, and it took about 20 minutes, maybe 30, because I faffed around a bit. But anyway, so we then billed her for the 4 hours she'd originally requested, yet it had taken us 5.5. Our mistake. Fair enough. We took a loss on that one. Then she goes to book in another clean. She goes, it's not as bad as the last one. It'll only need 3 hours. So the response was, Louise isn't available at the moment to do a quote. I will book you in for 4 hours. My staff took 4 hours and 8 minutes to do this. I also checked on it as well. And so we sent her an invoice for 4 hours. She then came back and said, I only booked 3. And I've gone back now saying, well, look, something's going wrong here, because when we cap it at more than you'd originally requested, we're not hitting the standards. Yet you don't want us to go over. What's going on here? Because we cannot continue with you not paying for the extra time that it's taking to hit your standards. And we're
3 hours, even 4 hours is like really a small amount of time for an end of tenancy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're talking 1-bedroom flat in good condition that the handymen have been into. But I did go back to her, and on this 1-bedroom flat that was supposed to take 3 hours, I messaged her at the time saying, this fridge is really bad. Now, I've gone back to her and I said, that fridge took 40 minutes. And she's like, that's totally unreasonable to take 40 minutes on a fridge. Am I totally out of line here that it can take 40 minutes on a bad fridge? Like,
no, absolutely not out of line, yeah.
Like, it takes that. And so I went back to her and I broke down. I literally broke down what every task took. And she's like, I think you're wrong. And I'm like, all right, okay, so you start doing my quotes then and we'll decide who's wrong. So now I'm sort of in a bit of a tricky situation. I'm like, look, you either pay my bill or we're not doing it for you again. If she refuses to pay for the 4 hours and pays for the 3, we'll write it off. But that's it. She's not going to get us to clean for her again. So I just don't like ending like this. And she won't answer the phone to me, obviously, because she doesn't want to negotiate. So I've had to send her an email, really nice, saying, look, you pay it or and we renegotiate on future ones. Potentially we did overclean. I can see that, you want some things missed. Maybe we didn't need to do the windows. Maybe we didn't need to do the skirting boards. We can take some of these things off. But ultimately, we did it. And when we didn't take the time, you weren't happy with the standards. So what do you want here?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because this is about managing customer expectations, really, isn't it? And doing it early on. So if a property developer or an agent, they're often the ones that will tell you how long they want it to take. You can say that's not a problem. What task list are you wanting us to, to actually carry out in that time? And then you can go back to them and tell them whether it's realistic or not. And also on arrival, you can kind of go, this isn't a standard clean. Maybe the team shouldn't have started until it was agreed that it was going to take longer.
So I messaged her telling her the fridge was going to take longer. And she's like, yeah, it shouldn't have taken that long. And I'm like, oh, well, I can see we're at fault. We accepted her quote, not me quoting.
Yeah.
But, when you're like, oh, do you know, at this stage, I just want to cut my losses. I'd quite happily just say, pay me what you want to pay me. And thank you very much. Deal's over.
And I think sometimes as well, when we get that message, whether it's from a current client or from anybody that says, oh, I'm looking for 2 hours cleaning on Friday, it's a move out clean, we as professionals, it's our responsibility, isn't it, to manage that and not book it. Just go, we won't be able to do it in the time. This is what we could do in the time. And be very, very clear in the booking process and the list of what will be done in the time. But yeah, it's a difficult one because it's easy sometimes to just go, yeah, we'll take a 4-hour booking or we'll do this because it's an easy thing to slot in the schedule. But the complications on it afterwards, we often live to regret it, don't we?
That's where I'm at. And 80% of problems can be eradicated with a good quote. And the reality is I didn't quote properly. It wasn't clear. And so now I have to deal with all the fallout. And the reality is it's probably my fault in the first place. And I'm like, oh God, I just want the problem to go away.
And the worst thing is
over 1 hour.
The worst thing is now know that you're not going to make any profit on the job at all. So she got her place clean, the staff got paid, and the business got nothing. Yeah, it's just business, unfortunately.
I know, but there'll be so many people that are like, yeah, I've done that. And I'm just like, I know exactly how to avoid it. So anyway, look, if my biggest problem is a debate over 1 hour's cleaning, fine. Just stop sending me emails. Just tell me you're not going to pay it and that's fine. Okay, right. Diane, I've got one more for you.
Okay.
I got one more. I can't afford that.
Okay, I get it. Not everybody can afford our service. And there are a couple of options around frequency if you really want to use our service. So rather than weekly, you do have the option of going fortnightly, and actually it won't be double the time. It might need a little bit longer, but it might suit your budget a little better. So that would be the only sort of option we would go with, would be to try and change the frequency to accommodate. Or if they really, really wanted weekly and they could only afford, say it needs 4 hours a week and they can only afford 2 hours, I would suggest that actually they, first of all, either only have certain rooms done, or we alternate and have a week one and a week two schedule. So we can be flexible. We're never, ever flexible on our hourly rate, but we can be flexible in the service we offer. And if this was a price increase response, I can no longer afford it, then again, it'd be the same conversation. Would this be a way of making it affordable so you can continue to enjoy the service?
So have you not had ones like this where I've got a little old lady in a 1-bedroom apartment and she wants 1 hour a week, which I won't deliver because we have a minimum of 2 hour visit. And so you quote her for 2 hours every 2 weeks, which is not entirely what she wanted. You know, it probably doesn't even need that much. And then she goes, I can't afford that. I mean, there's a point where I just tell her where she could potentially find someone that she can afford, because I don't want to tackle it anymore.
Yeah. And the thing is, our minimum is 3 hours fortnightly, 2 hours weekly, or 3 hours fortnightly. So yeah, so some of our, elderly clients can't afford it. They don't necessarily need the 3 hours. We might sort of suggest that, well, what about, is ironing something that would be helpful for you? The team can bring an iron with them, do some ironing while they're there, or would you like them to change the beds and do the laundry while they're there? And we'll just send one person, so we've got time for the washing machine to work, and sort of do some extra helpful things to try and make it affordable, or not affordable, but make it so that they're getting good value for what we're offering. But not every client is the right client for us. I would love to be able to clean for every client that rings, but just like the ones that think that it's going to cost £15 an hour are not the right clients, sometimes we're just not the right fit for a customer because they simply can't afford us. Whether they're being really realistic about price or not, they might be saying to me, we love what you do, and actually we don't think you're charging too much, we just simply can't afford it. That's just how it is. Not every customer's right.
Do you know, Diane, I was thinking about this. You know how I'm giving examples where I'm like exasperated with some of these? I've realized I've been sat in the office taking the incoming phone calls, right? Whereas you've been getting booked in quotes. So we're on the same line when we get booked in quotes. It's the constant phone calls, which is why I'm probably got a slightly different opinion to you at the moment, being on those frontline calls.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not as frontline as I used to be. And actually, we don't take the calls anyway. We use an answering service so that they get filtered through to us so we can deal with them in the time that we have. I see all the emails. I have a full dashboard. I see exactly what's going on in the business. But yeah, I'm not the one that has to actually deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, it is sometimes easier to keep the emotion out of it. But then I also know exactly how I felt and would feel if I was the one doing it. So yeah, I'm still in touch with the business enough to know.
You know, I got hung up on twice yesterday. Can I tell you how I got hung up on? First one was a booked in quote, right? So we do them over video calls. So she gave me a landline number. So I called her on the landline number. She told me that she wants someone to turn up for 3 hours. I said, we don't really do that. I need to do a quote. And she goes, I haven't got time for that right now. And I was like, all right. So I sort of tried to explain to her why we need to do a quote and this is what we can do. And then she was like, yeah, this just is not going to work for me. Thank you very much. Bye. I was like, okay. I got hung up on that. And then I got another one I got hung up on. Something along the same lines. I was trying to explain something that he'd called me. And I was like, why are you doing this to me today? What is it about me today? Right. But anyway,
It's a full moon or something this last week. Maybe it's just
I don't know. I think I've spent more time in the office. I've taken more calls. The staff love it. They love watching me do these because they just have to take a message and pass it on to me. So they love it when it's anyway, watching that. But Diane, more excitingly for the DCBN and for DCBN customers and non-DCBN members, you have got a recruitment 5-day challenge coming up.
Yes, yes. So we love a bit of recruitment at this time of year. It's a great time to grow your team if that's what you want to do. So we are running a 5-day challenge, Monday to Friday, from the 31st of March until the 4th of April, full week. And we're running it via a Facebook group, which is actually called DCBN 5-Day Recruitment Challenge, funnily enough. So you can just apply to join the group and you can join the challenge. It's completely free of charge. And the idea is that we will set you a challenge every single day. There's a little bit of a training video and a challenge every single day, with the aim by the end of the week you will have improved your recruitment processes, hopefully learnt some really good things about how you can actually attract people to your business, how you can interview them, how you can pick the right people and get some really good new starters in your business. If you just do a little bit of work in that week, it will make a massive difference.
Love these 5-day challenges because we can run a training video on them, but you've got to go off and take the action. What this does is breaks down the actions you've got to take. So if you do them, and may I suggest you do them, because you're going to have to do them anyway. If you do them all and you get to the end, you've done all the action. It's like watching a training video, but having all the results from it. And I love it because you make it easy. You give everything templates and you just break it down, don't you?
Absolutely. It's quite nice to do it in a group as well, because you've got other people that are doing it and they can inspire you, they can push you, and also you can learn from each other as well. There might be, oh, I did this and this worked really well. But yeah, we'll take you right from figuring out who you want to recruit, to writing really good job adverts, where to recruit them, how to interview them. Honestly, everything is covered in the 5-day challenge. And what's really interesting about the 5-day challenges that we run is people do them more than once and they get good results every single time, because it just makes you take action.
I love that. I've been onto the phone to Indeed quite a lot recently as well. Have you noticed they're really cracking down?
Yeah.
Have you had this?
Yes.
I'm now at the stage where I've got to write a new advert every 10 days. I can't, when they're like, right, you can pull the old advert and repeat it. They won't let you do that. I have to recreate a new one.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you know what's going on with my Indeed, because I've got a little bit of a thing going on that's working quite well, and I'm keeping quiet in case Indeed twig.
Okay, well, I'll wait till the podcast ends and then go tell me. No, my Indeed. Honestly, my recruitment is going really well at the moment, surprisingly enough.
We've got a new starter this week. There's 2 interviews happening actually probably right now in the office. So yeah, we're hopeful we'll have at least probably 4 new starters in the next few weeks. That's our plan anyway.
We're doing about 2 a month, but do you know what's made the biggest difference to my recruitment? So one of the things you're going to talk about in the 5-day challenge is templating things and getting the right systems and the right process. But the weak part in my process is me, because I have to log onto the computer and do various bits at various points. So now my wonderful admin lady, Katie, who's phenomenal, she goes on it every day and just sends the templates. It takes her about 2 minutes. And I'm like, yes, it's just done every day. I love it.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, isn't it? It's like having a process that you can follow, whether you've got that admin person to do it for you or not, but having a process that you can follow yourself with those templates just makes it so much easier. But we'll cover it all in the recruitment challenge. I've run it. This will be the 3rd time I've run it now, and I absolutely love the recruitment challenge, because recruitment's exciting, but it's also completely demoralizing sometimes. So it's good to find some easy ways of doing it and making it less emotional and less demoralizing for you.
And sometimes it's just setting up the system. Perfect. Thank you very, very much. I'll be joining you on that challenge, Diane. Looking forward to seeing you soon and seeing everyone else that joins in.
Cheers, Louise.
Bye-bye.